Name is on this motion, not because I don't think we need to control the costs of legal aid. We do. But in this way and at this speed, I think not. The Legal Aid Sentencing Punishment Offenders Act is barely completed. We have not done an assessment on that. The consultation was extremely brief, and we understand the government intends to place contracts in the autumn. The likelihood, frankly, without primary legislation, is that this business will be challenged in the courts, so we will have more haste and actually less speed in terms of delivery on savings. But I want to come to some more fundamental points. The first thing to say is there's not, as has been intimated, about the protection by silver-tongued lawyers of serial offenders. In the Crown Courts, in contested cases, half are found not guilty. So what we're talking about is providing justice to the innocent and indeed to victims.
Will you give way on that point?
Yes, of course.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. Does he agree with me that one of the discrete risks of allowing large firms to swallow up small firms may be a loss of small specialist firms capable of commanding the trust of specific local communities and in particular practices representing victims like Stephen Lawrence and other cases?
Well, my honourable friend makes a very good point, one I will return to later, but he's exactly right in that. And that's one of the unintended consequences, or likely unintended consequences, of what's being proposed in the consultation. But I want to go to a more general point. In its efforts to cut legal costs overall, the government is overlooking a far bigger cause of waste in the system than legal aid, namely the sheer inefficiency of the Crown Prosecution Service. In 2011-12, more than 123,000 prosecutions failed after charge because either no evidence was presented or the case was eventually dropped. The cost to the prosecution service itself, to the courts, and to aborted defences was measured in tens of millions of pounds, not to mention the stress placed upon presumably innocent people in carrying it through. Forgive me, I'm very tight on time. I'll give way if I can a little later. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Time and again, we see cases of trials delayed and extended by Crown prosecution incompetence. In my part of the world alone, the newspapers are littered with cases of lawyers not turning up, evidence not being presented, cases being adjourned again and again and again. I suspect we all have constituency cases just like that. This happens right across the country. So we should not pretend that the legal aid system is a model of efficiency. However, when it comes to finding savings and better effective justice across the whole system, we should look first at the Crown Prosecution Service itself before we let the axe fall again on legal aid. I will also say, and this comes to the point my honourable friend made, I am yet to be convinced by government assurances that legal aid providers' quality will be guaranteed by a state body. This debate comes barely a week after the Care Quality Commission scandal. And what that demonstrates is how difficult it is to actually guarantee the quality of complex intellectual services, which of course justice is. And notice, even where it has direct control, even where the state has direct control, namely the Crown Prosecution Service and the Serious Fraud Office, it cannot guarantee quality there either. A judge in a recent murder case, described the Crown prosecution lawyer as completely inadequate. The judge said the lawyer cited old law, did not understand the current law, fell out with his prosecution team, and then simply doesn't show up the following Monday. And as a result, the trial had to be reheld 6 months later. Now, if you can't guarantee your own system and your own service, how are you going to guarantee 400 private operators around the country? And frankly, if I'm very quickly.
Does he also recognise a conservative idea that competition actually can drive down costs?
Well, the honourable gentleman. is almost taking the words out of my mouth. I actually cannot believe that a Conservative government is going to mandate how many companies and how many providers there should be. I know of no example in the world where a government mandated the number of companies and then improved the efficiency of provision. Not one. Not one. So this is really, frankly, a Soviet proposal that I don't want to see. I don't mind if there are better ways of finding efficiency, as my honourable friend said earlier. That's what we must find. But please, please do not lay down laws like that. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'd like briefly to talk about a couple of other very troubling issues in the consultation document. The first of these is the 12-month residency test, which, in my view, could deny justice to people who have suffered by the actions of the UK government, and which we are responsible for, under UK jurisdiction, and we are responsible for resolving. Even just talking about cases which I have been directly involved in: Binyan Mohammed, Serdar Mohammed, Yunus Rahmatullah, who's now still in Bagram prison, Baha Musa, people who were either subject to torture in which we were complicit, or a man who was beaten to death by British soldiers, an innocent man, or people who have been rendered still to other countries, people who have been handed over to our allies and tortured, as my honourable friend says, from a sedentary position, de Menezes, who was shot, accidentally, but still shot by the British government. All these people would be denied their justice. But importantly, since they are obviously in many cases deceased, more importantly, what would happen is the British people would not know about the misdemeanours of their own government. Which brings me to the last point about judicial review. I sympathise with ministers who find it irksome that we have so many judicial reviews. But the government is in danger of getting itself a reputation of wanting to act above the law. Irksome as it is, this is what keeps British governments honest. Doesn't matter which party, which origin, it keeps the government honest. And I say to the government, before you strike down these things in your own convenience, think again, come back more slowly, and present this House some primary legislation which we can then be proud of.